do a couple new ones. Well, this video is just one new one. I'll do other videos. This is not a true story, based on a true story. It's a story song. It's called Rosebud Bob. It was a cold, clear night in Dillon, and the stars glowed by the millions on the shadow of a massive man lying flat there on his back. His hat pulled down to hide his eyes. You could smell the apple pie moonshine and a one-eyed healer mutt guarding that brown paper sack. I sat there on the cold steel bench, donated by the Rotarians for the J.C. Beaver Jamboree in 1982. The old-timers say that in those days this man could lift a bale of hay, toss it like a beanbag on the Hotel Metlin roof. Well, the sheep were fat and the hats are big, and the trees today were only twigs, and the open range was the great domain of the big Basque buckaroos. As the Santa Fe goes rolling by, there's a glimmer in those emerald eyes, and a memory that he'll try to hide, a lost world of his youth. In Beaverhead, if you got a job, well, I wouldn't call Rosebud Bob. He'll leave you with a half a dozen torque screws hanging loose. But if you've got a little time and you're hanging around the Naughty Pine, the tales they tell are way too wild to not be the truth. Yes, sir. When he was green and 17, the big town girls were kind of mean to the Basque boys and the Pyrenees and their mob of woolly youths. But Linda Jean was kind of keen on the green-eyed giant in worn-out jeans, just strolling down Bannock Street, grinning like a fool. With a ram under each big arm, he'd wade through the loading yard, parting the sea of sheep like he was Moses walking through. Or the giant of the Beaverhead would turn a certain shade of red when LJ would smile from the rail of the loading chutes. But the seasons changed and hard times came, and they closed down half the grazing range to the Basque herds who'd laid their claims since the spring of '72. Well, the feds say it was overgrazed, but everyone knows cattle came first in the eyes of the men in the three-piece suits. In the Beaverhead, if you got a job, well, I wouldn't call Rosebud Bob. You'll find him staring at a chainsaw buried halfway in a spruce. But way back in the woolly days, before that stone-cold whiskey haze, there was not a better working man walking in a pair of boots. That's where I'd do a fiddle solo while I scroll down. Well, when the family lost their targy herd, Bob went looking for more work. He became a legend in the railroad world with hands like catcher's mitts. He didn't fit in the work truck cab, so he just rode around and back, and the snow would fall and he would laugh 'cause he couldn't speak a lick. From her office up at the Stockman's Bank to a quiet riverbank, they'd wear out the daylight when that depot shift was through. On a tanned old merino fleece, they'd just sit there and feed the geese, and LJ would read poetry to that goofy giant mute. And he'd sleep out there beneath the sky, out beyond the highway sign. LJ would give him rides as he whistled aimless tunes. He'd climb out of the old step side, and she would wave and give a smile, and he'd turn the color of the sunset on the far tobacco roots. But in those days it wasn't strange to try and hide the folks away who weren't burned the normal way and they couldn't read or write. Well, no one knows who called the law, but they rounded up Rosebud Bob, they shipped him off to Warm Springs on a moonless summer night. In a beaver head, if you got a job, well, you wouldn't call Rosebud Bob. That merle-colored cattle dog will chew right through your shoe. He'll take your pay and wander off, maybe try to buy a bit of grog, but it's hard not to blame him when you know what he's been through. Do 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 do. Well, 20 years they came and went as he loitered in a loony bin with the cripples and the crazies at Warm Springs Institute. Some say that they just gave up, or they blame those 90s budget cuts, but without a single sorry bud, they just turned him loose. Well, the town had changed while he was gone, though he might still be big and strong. The world had long ago moved on, and Linda Jean had too. By the side of the interstate, there's a rose growing through a cattle grade, and a marker that reads LJ 51 to 92. Well, he sits out there in Depot Park in the cold, lonely dark, staring at the stars and the lonesome yellow moon. As another train goes rolling by, there's a glimmer in those emerald eyes, and the memory of a whole lifetime too strange to not be true. In a beaver head, if you got a job, you better not call Rosebud Bob. He'll leave you with a half a dozen torque screws hanging loose. I need a fiddle or a harmonica. That would go good in that song. That one's called Rosebud Bob. If you see me live, I'll tell you the story, where it comes from. My name's Ben Larson. You already knew that. You're already watching my video. Why do I keep talking? Why can I never find the stop button? It's awkward.